Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us. His name is Akshat Singh. He is a 3D artist in the studio called Black Mart Studio. Yeah, Akshat, tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, guys? Myself Akshat Singh, and I'm a 3D game artist at Blackmart Studios. So, currently, we are working on our first game, that is Crimson Tactics: The Rise of
Hmm,
White Banner. You can play the early access in the mid of April, or
hmm.
in April, I guess. So, basically, my job in Blackmart Studios is to create environments and levels for our game.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So, the game that you have just mentioned, Crimson Tactics, right? So,
Yeah.
what genre is this game? Like, it sounds like a kind of RPG game.
So basically, Crimson Tactics is basically a turn-based RPG.
Hmm,
It's a turn-based RPG set in a fantasy world of Vandale. You can definitely check the Steam store, check the game on Steam,
hmm.
and all about it.
So, can you show the Steam page of that particular game that you have
Yeah,
shared?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the
Hmm,
Steam page of our game, Crimson Tactics: The Rise of White Banner.
hmm,
So if you see over here, this is a short description of our game,
hmm.
Crimson Tactics. The Crimson Tactics Rise of White Banner brings you an epic adventure in the form of a turn-based tactics RPG set in the medieval high fantasy world. Witness a massive political disruption through the lives of different characters and fight for the fate of Vendale.
Right, sounds very interesting. So
Yeah.
this art style that I'm able to see right now, ये काफी मुझे anime का vibe देता है,
Yeah.
Japanese anime, and like it's similar to how this Japanese games are, JRPG games are, and
Uh-huh.
from the screenshot that I'm currently seeing, it seems like a tactical RPG game where
Mhm.
the जो game mechanics होता है वहाँ पे you need to move the player with the move set that you've been given, and you have
Mhm.
grids and you have to think along the way कि मुझे कौन सा move करना होगा. Like there will be like a move from the enemy. It's like a turn-based tactical, right? So
Mhm.
you have to set your moves, you have to set your defense, and then you have to plan accordingly and then execute your moves for that. Am I correct?
Yeah, बिल्कुल.
Okay. So I don't see this kind of games a lot coming from Indian market. So this is a very interesting and a new genre that we are seeing that has been produced and developed from India Game Studios. So can you tell more about your studio, Black March Studio?
या सो ब्लैक मार्क स्टूडियो बेसिकली जो है पिछले साल ही अप्रैल में स्टार्ट हुआ और
Okay.
तभी से मतलब हम जो है क्रिम्सन टैक्टिक्स पे काम कर रहे हैं थ्रू आउट मतलब जब से मतलब स्टार्ट हुआ तो तब से हमने इसमें आर्ट स्टाइल में बहुत
Hmm.
सी जो है क्या कहते हैं चेंजेस किए हैं मतलब सेम लेवल्स पे
Right.
और जैसे कि और थोड़ा सा डिटेल्स डाल के और थोड़ा सा मतलब उसको
Hmm.
क्या कहते हैं ब्यूटिफाई करके. So
Hmm.
if you see in this trailer, अगर आप ये वाला ट्रेलर पहले देखोगे, तो ये बेसिकली पहला ट्रेलर था जो हमने तब रिलीज किया था और ये वाला ट्रेलर था जो हमने स्टीम का जब
Hmm.
फेस्ट हुआ था, स्टीम फेस्ट हुआ था, उसमें
Yeah.
जब हमने डेमो रिलीज करा था. हमने स्टीम
Right.
पे एक छोटा सा डेमो रिलीज करा था जो कि
Okay.
कुछ एक हफ्ते के लिए आई गेस एक्सेसिबल था.
Hmm.
सो यू कैन सी दीज टू, इसमें कितना वेरिएशन है,
Right.
राइट? यू गेटिंग मी?
Yeah.
सो
Yeah.
उन सारे थ्रू आउट जब से मतलब हमने इस पे काम करना स्टार्ट किया तब से हमने इसमें काफी जो है इम्प्रूवमेंट्स किए हैं आर्ट स्टाइल्स में भी. एंड
Hmm.
ऑल्सो वी आर डूइंग इम्प्रूवमेंट्स इन द गेम प्ले लेवल ऑल्सो बाय
Right.
taking all the feedbacks which we get after we released the demo.
So a lot of iterations has been going on to refine the game mechanics and the art style.
Yeah.
by taking feedbacks of the players. Yeah, that's a good strategy because the player comes first.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's a good thing. Like last year say agar start hua hai, and like it's a good progress that the game is going on, and it looks very interesting. And I think it's a 3D game, right? Like from what I can see in the video, it's a 3D
Yes,
game,
it's a
right?
3D game. Yeah, it's
The,
a 3D game.
right. So it's a top down 3D game.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, the game looks really cool. I mean, I'm really hyped for this game.
Mm-hmm.
I followed the game, and also I have added to my wish list. So I'm really
Yeah.
waiting when the
Thank you.
game will get full released and sit down and play the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
so in this podcast we're gonna talk about the art style in different games, right? So why art
Yeah.
style is important, and see what happens is basically like art style is something that will keep the game evergreen because the graphics is not everything. It's like if the game that is released like 5 or 10 years ago, if the art style is not good, the game won't have the charming factor after playing it 10 years later. बट द इफ द आर्ट स्टाइल इज रियली गुड, वो गेम में जो आर्ट स्टाइल है वो बहुत अच्छा उन्होंने बनाया है, उसके कैरेक्टर्स हो गए, उसके जो ग्राफिकल जो कलर्स हो जाते हैं, उसके एस्थेटिक्स हो जाते हैं, द गेम हैज रियली गुड चार्मिंग फैक्टर, then people will
Right.
play that game all along the way even after 10-15 years. That's the reason few
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo games, I think few Japanese games still played today because
Yeah.
of the art style. It's being so
Yeah.
charming that
Correct.
people don't care about like how old the game is. People still prefer play the game.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right. Right.
in this podcast we're gonna talk about different art styles in different games, because if we see like a lot of realistic games, like we when we talk about games then we mostly focus on games that is realistic games, like GTA or Call of Duty हो गया, या तो जो realistic games है Uncharted हो गया, Last of Us
Uh-huh.
हो गया. So those games
Yeah.
are very much realistic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like the developers work really hard to put that realism factor in those games. But there are some lot of other games also that are not realistic, like maybe they're pseudo realistic, or maybe that has a very stylized look to it, like the game that you have just showed, Crimson Tactics, that has a very much stylized anime look. So
Yeah.
because of that thing, I think like a lot of game has that charming factor, and a lot of game can still like rise on the top because they have a good concept art and they has a good art style in them. So right now we're gonna see some of the games both in 2D and 3D that has a very good art style according to us, and we're gonna understand like why that game is particularly, that art style is very much like catchy to the eyes, and why we think like that game gonna like have that evergreen factor, like no matter when people play that game they will always have the enjoyment, and they will also have that
Mm-hmm.
that really good aesthetics that they can see in the game. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so let's start with the game. I think with the 2D game that I think a lot of people are familiar with, which is called Cuphead, one of my
Yeah.
favorite game. I mean, I played that game a lot. It's damn hard. It is good. It's a very
Yeah.
good game, but it's really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and also the when I was like first played the Cuphead, I was like, damn it, why it looks like the retro cartoons which we used to watch on Disney, right?
Yes. That
Yeah,
hand drawn
it
feel.
hands-on things. Yeah, it gives a vibe of that retro Disney animations, which
Hmm.
was done years ago, right? So उसमें मतलब काफी अच्छा feel आ रहा था Cuphead में, and also Cuphead is like is it's really hard to like it's to master Cuphead also.
Yes, yes, I can agree on that because I played that game with my friends and we got really frustrated. And sooner we have realized that nahi, matlab, this is something that we have to get on, and we have to practice a lot. We have to understand the enemy patterns, and then only we can master, because these kind of games like they has these boss fights has this kind of enemy patterns, right? And you have to
Correct.
understand like woke up and like the animation. Let's talk about the animation. If we can share the screen, if you'll be sharing the screen, we can show some gameplay of that of Cuphead.
Yeah, just a sec. So yeah, so this is how. So yeah, so this is how Cuphead looks like. you see that it gives the retro vibe,
Hmm.
जो retro मतलब डिज्नी के कार्टून्स उस टाइम हुआ करते थे, जैसे कि मिकी माउस वगैरह वो सब हो गए। तो ये बेसिकली उसका एक पूरा का पूरा जो है, जो स्टूडियो है, उन्होंने वैसा ही एक आर्ट स्टाइल, see these lines on the screen, these are in
Yeah,
the game,
scratch
right?
lines. Yeah,
Yeah,
scratch
these
lines.
are in, yeah. So उन्होंने बिल्कुल वैसा ही एक आर्ट स्टाइल यूज किया है, ताकि जो है एक चीज होती है जब मतलब डेवलपर्स और आर्टिस्ट मिलके ये कोई गेम बनाते हैं, तो उनके मन में ये रहती है कि हम जो वीडियो गेम बना रहे हैं वो किस एज ग्रुप के लिए है, और अगर वो
Yeah.
इस एज ग्रुप के लिए है, तो क्या अगर कोई दूसरा कोई बंदा अगर कोई देखेगा, दूसरा कोई एज ग्रुप का उसे देखेगा, तो क्या उसे वो फील आएगी कि क्या मतलब कि मैंने ये गेम्स पहले भी देखे हुए हैं, राइट?
Yeah.
सो सो अगर कोई मतलब कोई बच्चा भी इसे खेलता है, या फिर कोई बड़ा भी इसको खेलेगा जिसने मिकी माउस देखा हुआ है उस टाइम का,
Yeah.
so he was like he will be also be enjoying playing this game, because it brings back the memory, right?
Yes, right. And it has that charming factor, like there's that aesthetic factor in that game.
Yeah,
This cutscene looks like a color, and like the animation. Let's talk about the animation. Like the animation is like something that gives that hand drawing feeling, right?
yeah, right,
And like it's not something that is made in like a skeletal animation that like that people use in most of the 2D games, where they create the assets and then they put bones in the character and then they animate the character inside of the game engine or any other software. But
right, right,
this is something that looks like it is made on paper,
right,
that
right.
each frame they had drawn and had given that look to it. So the whole game I can see, like it looks like the 40s का जो कार्टून होते थे, जो
Right,
डिज्नी के
right.
कार्टून्स होते थे, तो it has that charm factor in it. And I
Uh-huh.
think because of that, this, like no matter जब भी वो कोई खेलेगा this game, it will always have that charming factor in it. And because of that, I think this game has that evergreen factor in the graphics and overall the whole gameplay also.
Yeah, right, right, right. So yeah, basically वही चीज है कि मतलब it brings back the memories, कि कैसे मतलब उन्होंने इस आर्ट स्टाइल को यूज किया ताकि वो जितने भी मतलब एज ग्रुप है उन सबको टारगेट कर पाए, जो डेवलपर्स ने कपहेड को बनाया था।
Yes, yes. So they had, I think, because like what you said, that unhone matlab like they targeted both adults, and because it's a cartoon game, they targeted the kids as well. And the adults
Yeah,
will have that nostalgic feeling. Okay, chalo hum logon ne to ye cartoon dekha tha, and it looks
right,
like
right,
even when the kids are playing this game, they'll have, oh wait, like, oh my god, like this graphics is like something that I have seen in the old cartoons. Like मैं जब बच्चा था
right.
तो I used to watch all these cartoons, and it looks like
Yeah,
that, because there are so many 2D games, but this has that other charming factor that other games don't have mostly. Like the
yeah,
animation, like when I speak about the animation, like animation maybe this has such a funky look and such a like बहुत ज्यादा exaggeration उन्होंने किया है characters में, जहाँ पे
right.
कैरेक्टर्स का सर घूम जाता है. दे हैज दिस ओल्ड कार्टून के जो मिकी माउस हो गया या तो टॉम एंड जेरी हो गए, वहां पे जैसे एक्सेजरेशन करते थे कैरेक्टर्स को, तो उन्होंने वो
Right.
फील लाया. इवन द बैकग्राउंड हैज दैट काइंड ऑफ पेंटिंग काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग इनटू इट.
Yeah, right, right, right. जो मतलब एक पूरा का जैसे कि एक रियलिस्टिक और एक क्या कहते हैं कार्टूनिश लुक को पूरा का पूरा इन्होंने मर्ज कर दिया है। जो बैकग्राउंड है, इट लुक्स लाइक अ पेंटिंग ऑन अ पेपर, राइट?
यस.
एंड द कैरेक्टर्स आर बेसिकली फ्लैट, दे आर बेसिकली फ्लैट टेक्सचर्स, फ्लैट
यस.
कैरेक्टर्स एंड स्टफ।
Yes, right. Especially I'm really fond of the animation because like ये जो अभी हुआ, like उसका पेट
हाँ
फूल
हाँ।
गया when he got that ability. So that that animation that they have given, like that exaggeration, everything like I
हाँ,
see in the game that has that exaggeration feeling in it. And
yeah,
I think that's because that is the reason this game has that charm into it, that everyone will wish to play this game no matter where they are.
yeah, right, correct.
Okay, moving on, let's go to our second game, uh, which is also one of the most popular game in the 2D genre, which is Hollow Knight. So the next game is Hollow Knight. So I think हम लोग के viewers ने Hollow Knight खेले होंगे. I mean, if they haven't played, try the game. It's really nice. It's a Metrovania game, and uh, I particularly like the gothic vibe in the game because it has that dark atmospheric feeling into it, like the
Mm-hmm.
whole environment, and even like the character has that kind of a skull kind of feel into it, and it's a very gothic. The game is very gothic, and because it's a
Yeah,
Metrovania, it has that mystery, dark
yeah,
look into it, where
right.
there can be death in any moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, have you played the game Hollow Knight before, Akshat?
Yeah, after I was searched some 2D games on internet, I come
Hmm.
to know about Hollow Knight. तो मुझे इसका बेसिकली जो है आर्ट स्टाइल काफी अच्छा लगा। जैसा कि आपने मतलब कहा राहुल कि ये थोड़ा सा गॉथिक टाइप है, और
Hmm.
इसका जो एक छोटा सा ये कैरेक्टर है, हॉल आई गेस इसी को मतलब हॉलो नाइट कहते हैं। वो बेसिकली जो प्लेयर्स है उनको एक क्या कहते हैं, जो कैरेक्टर है वो बेसिकली एक मिस्टीरियस सा कैरेक्टर लगता है, वो वैसी वाइब देता है कि व्हाट्स इनसाइड द स्कल ऑफ दिस कैरेक्टर, हु
Hmm.
ही एक्चुअली इज, और ही और शी, आई डोंट नो। बट
Yeah.
इसका पूरा जो एनवायरनमेंट है वो पूरा का पूरा ये 2D बेस्ड है। ऑसम लाइटिंग एंड ऑसम दिस थिंग, 2D आर्ट एंड विजुअल इफेक्ट्स एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ। सो ये सारी जो चीजें हॉलो नाइट को एक अलग से स्टैंड आउट करता है बाकी गेम्स के मतलब मार्केट में, तो देखा जाए तो।
Yes, yes. Like the colors, right? If I speak of the colors, like they don't have a lot of color in the game. Like I think purple,
राइट,
blue, and black is the
राइट,
only color that they mostly focus on in the game.
करेक्ट,
Like kind of a
या,
monochromatic vibe in the game. So
या,
like they have the color palette. I think जो उन्होंने select किया इस game के लिए, they have selected only the colors that gives that atmospheric feeling, that gothic
या,
feeling. The visual
and
representation.
also yeah, and also the to soothing the eye, also soothing to the eye.
Yes, yes. They don't have that bright colors, and like you said, that lighting is a very important, I think, in the game, because like as the
Right.
character moves, right? So he has that lighting, he has that small light around him, so that
Yeah.
he can see in the dark areas. The player can see in the dark areas as well. So
Right,
because
right.
of that, I think this game really stands out, visually, and even the
Mm-hmm.
gameplay is really nice. But there are a lot of Metrovanias I have played in recent years, and this has become a current trend. I think Dead
Mm-hmm.
Cells is also one of the game that goes with the gothic thing. But this game has that, because of the art style. This game really stands out, against all the other games that are currently in the market.
Yeah, yeah. Correct, correct.
And I think the enemies in the game, like they also has that particular outline character in it. Like there has this kind of sketch look into it, if you
Yeah.
see, because
Hmm.
यहाँ पे जो characters है उसमें outline है, like enemies में भी
Hmm.
और उसमें भी, like it's not like a flat drawing. It has that outline
Right,
character, so say ink वाला feeling आता है कि इसमें like it's made
right.
of something on a pen, or like a comic character.
कॉमिक स्ट्रिप, या। एंड
Yes.
ऑल्सो अगर आपने ध्यान दिया होगा इस पे, इसमें क्या होता है कि हॉलो नाइट में जैसे कि हम ट्रिपल ए गेम्स में देखते हैं कि जैसे जैसे हम मूव करते हैं तो ग्रास और ऑब्जेक्ट्स भी थोड़ा सा मूव करते हैं।
Hmm.
सो उन्होंने डेवलपर्स ने ये चीज भी गौर से डाली, जैसे कि अभी ये मूव करा तो
Hmm.
ग्रास भी उसके साथ थोड़ा सा मूव करा। सो एनवायरनमेंट की कैरेक्टर्स के साथ इंटरेक्शन ये
Hmm.
2D गेम्स में थोड़ा कम ही देखने को मिलता है, राइट।
Right.
सो
Yes.
उन्होंने
Yes.
ये चीज भी काफी अच्छे से वो करी है। एंड सेकंड थिंग ये है कि हॉलो नाइट में जो इसके बहुत से कैरेक्टर्स और क्रीचर्स हैं वो
Hmm.
आपस में रिसेंबल करते हैं, राइट। जैसे कि
Yes.
ह्यूमंस होते हैं, ह्यूमंस
Hmm.
अगर दूर से देखोगे तो एक जैसे लगते हैं, राइट। तो
Yes.
इसमें जो कैरेक्टर्स हैं उनके भी मतलब जो है स्कल टाइप जो है फेसेस हैं। जैसे कि
Hmm.
ये जो बी इसकी उड़ रही है, इसका भी पूरा एक स्कल टाइप
Hmm.
फेस है, और आपस में थोड़े से लुक लाइक लगते हैं कि ताकि मतलब जो वर्ल्ड है पूरा का पूरा एक जो स्टोरी है बेसिकली वो सेम वर्ल्ड में रिसाइड करे। सो
Yes.
दैट्स
Yes.
आल्सो द थिंग, या।
Yes. Yes. Those, like each of the enemies there that has a kind of a dead look into it. Like
राइट,
it is dead, and like काफी सालों से वो उधर पड़ा हुआ है, तो they don't have the soul into it. Like they're coming to attack the player as soon as they see the player, and
राइट,
like so like kind of a zombie kind of feel. But again, like it has that creepy vibe into it, like the whole
Creepy
atmosphere.
vibe, yeah.
Yes. And one more thing that I've noticed in the game is that जो लेयर है, जो पैरेलैक्स बैकग्राउंड है, उसका भी काफी अच्छे से उन्होंने ध्यान पे रखा है. जैसे
Correct,
there are
yes.
a lot of foregrounds, midgrounds and backgrounds, and like
Right.
even in the particle effects also, like that the small जो I think the fireflies or whatever those are. So वो जो गेम पे है, so उसका भी एक
हाँ
अलग से
हाँ.
उन्होंने लेयरिंग करके रखा है. तो जब प्लेयर मूव होता है तो उसका भी एक सेपरेट लेयर में वो मूव होता है. So that gives that even that is a this is a 2D game, it gives that depth into the game, because they have added a lot of blur into the background, and they have added a lot of, I think,
Right.
layers into the background, so that each layer moves in their own speed. So उससे एक बहुत एक ज्यादा डेप्थ वाला फीलिंग आ जाता है.
यस राइट. एंड ऑल्सो जो इसका कैरेक्टर है वो मतलब इट्स रियली काइंड ऑफ क्यूट. आई मीन सीरियसली, उसमें ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि कैरेक्टर में उसकी कोई उसने आर्मर पहना हुआ है या फिर उसका कोई
या
कूल सा हेयर स्टाइल है या समथिंग लाइक दैट. इट जस्ट
या
एज सिंपल एज दैट, सीरियसली.
yes. And they had made the character head a bit बड़ा बनाया उन्होंने. The head is very big and the body
या
is very
राइट.
small. So
या
like the most of the time, like जो distinguishing factor है is the head only, because the
या
body दिखता ही नहीं है अच्छे से, but the head is something that the character will keep looking at. Okay, like the most of the time the attention goes into the head rather than the body, क्योंकि body एक बहुत छोटा है, but still they have added a lot of animation. उस character का
या
cape animation हो गया,
राइट.
उसका falling animation अभी जो गिर रहा है. So all these things they have added like a lot of details into the character animation, and the overall the vibe of the character, the overall the aesthetic of the character, whether it comes to the character design. So they have kept it very simple, but again, like they have kept it a bit different, so that player will always have the separation factor. Okay, ये मेरा character है, ये मेरा enemy है.
राइट राइट राइट.
Yeah, cool. So Hollow Knight, if someone hasn't played that game till now, we would recommend play the game, because if you're studying game art, and you're studying like even like game design, and how a 2D game should look, and how a 2D game should play, especially if that game is a Metrovania game. So you should, I think this game is a very good example to study, and also it's a pretty fun game. Like if someone is fond of playing 2D games, they should definitely try Hollow Knight, and they'll have a great time playing the game.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
moving on to the next game. So the next game is Ori and the Blind Forest. So another great game that has a really good, animation and graphics and aesthetics to it. The art style is pretty fantastic, and I think it's very extraordinary the way that they have handled the lighting in the game. The game has kind of a realistic look into it, but again, like it has kind of a illustration book feeling to it, like those kind of realistic illustration that we see on uh, coloring, not coloring books, I mean those kind of art books that we see. And
Right.
yeah, and I think this is one of the best looking 2D side scrolling game I've ever seen. What do you say?
Yeah. Yeah. प्रीवियसली होलो नाइट में जो था, होलो नाइट में जैसे कि हमने देखा था कि वो उसमें इतना मतलब डिटेल्स था, बट वो बेसिकली उसमें इतना वैसे डिटेल नहीं था एज कंपैरिजन टू मतलब जैसे ओरी एंड द ब्लाइंड फॉरेस्ट में. इसमें इन्होंने मतलब ओरी एंड द ब्लाइंड फॉरेस्ट में उन्होंने हर एक चीज में बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल्ड जो है हैंड पेंट किया है. मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं कि whether it's a 2D game or it's a 3D game, because उसमें इसमें इन्होंने इतना अच्छे से हैंड पेंट सब कुछ कर रखा होता है, एनवायरनमेंट्स एंड कैरेक्टर्स एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ, कि ये सबसे पहली नजर में ऐसा लगता है कि इट्स अ 3D गेम, बट
Yeah.
इट्स नॉट द 3D गेम, इट्स अ 2D गेम, जहाँ पे बहुत ही डिटेल्ड तरीके से जो है फोटोशॉप में या फिर किसी भी अदर सॉफ्टवेयर में जो है उन्होंने बैकग्राउंड्स को या फिर कैरेक्टर्स को या फिर प्रॉप्स को जो है हैंड पेंट किया हुआ है. सो या हम ये कह सकते हैं कि ये बेसिकली एक रियलिस्टिक अप्रोच है हैंड हैंड पेंटेड आर्ट स्टाइल की, जहाँ पे उन्होंने बहुत सी चीजें जो है रियलिस्टिक वे में हैंड पेंट की है. जैसे कि अभी ये प्लेटफॉर्म पे गिरा और ये जो रॉक है यहाँ पर, तो
Yeah.
ये these are really look like it's real. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
3D model, but it's not a 3D. So yeah.
Yes. So basically, they have focused on the colors and how the textures of each object are. and they had created like hand painted, जैसे आपने बोला कि they had followed the hand painted style, and I think even in the animation they had added that pseudo 3D look into it, so that
Yeah.
though it is a 2D animation, but they have added that pseudo 3D techniques so that it looks like it's in a 3D space. So in this
Yes.
particular scene, like we can see that rays of the light is coming into the tree and also in the other side of the screen. So
Right.
light, I think in this game, lighting plays a very important part. Like all these
Mhm.
effects that they have used and the colors that they have, the color palette that they have seen. So like all
Yeah.
the small details that they have put it into the game makes this game
Mhm.
very interesting looking, and I think it's one of the exceptional game that we see don't see, I mean we don't see in the market, this kind of 2D
Mhm.
game with such a high production quality.
Yeah. जहाँ पर हॉलो नाइट जो है बेसिकली वहां पर सिर्फ 2 या फिर 3 मैक्सिमम कलर्स थे। ऑरी एंड द ब्लाइंड फॉरेस्ट में मतलब कलर्स बहुत ही ज्यादा अच्छे हैं इसमें। इसमें हमें बहुत से अच्छे अच्छे कलर्स देखने को मिल जाएंगे, जैसे ब्लू हो गया, पर्पल हो गया, ग्रीनिश, और मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम जो है ब्राउनिश
Hmm.
कलर, जो कि फॉरेस्ट का एक पूरा, क्योंकि इसमें
Yes.
जो लेवल्स हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द
Yeah.
लेवल्स, तो इसमें काफी अच्छी कलर पैलेट इन्होंने यूज करी हुई है।
Yes, and again, like this is another one of the Metroidvanias that I have played in recent years, and it's pretty hard. Like I have not completed the game, but I have went very far into the game, and it's not an easy game, if I say.
राइट
But
राइट राइट।
yeah, but the gameplay is amazing. Like you get new skills in the game, you get new abilities, and then the levels are very interesting. Like you get new challenges. So overall, this game has that really good aesthetics to it, and also like the overall gameplay and everything looks good, even the cutscenes and
राइट।
the music. If you talk about the music is really touchy. Like जिन्होंने भी ये खेला उनको पता होगा, the music, the composition of the music is really good. And ये मैंने जब start किया था, so I felt like it is like a movie that I'm currently playing, right?
या एंड
And
ऑल्सो इसमें भी बेसिकली एक ये फैक्टर है कि इसका भी जो कैरेक्टर है, ये जो कैरेक्टर है बेसिकली इसका,
yeah, Ori.
आई गेस ओरी, सो
Yeah.
ये भी बहुत ज्यादा सिंपल है। इसमें भी ऐसा कुछ इन्होंने वो नहीं डाल रखा कि मतलब इस पे
Hmm.
ऐसा कुछ है कि ज्यादा ही बड़ा है या फिर समथिंग लाइक दैट। हॉलो नाइट
Hmm.
की तरह भी ये बहुत ज्यादा सिंपल है। इसमें ये ऐसा प्योर वाइट
Hmm.
जो है अच्छा एक वाइब देता है कैरेक्टर को सो।
Yes. So it's like a clean character, like in the corrupted forest. So
या
like जो जब मैं खेलता हूँ तो I get this feeling that it's like a ray of small hope, and
या
that other thing that follows with it, जो छोटा सा उसको guide करते रहते हैं. So again,
राइट
like that thing has that pretty charming factor in it, क्योंकि वो उसको guide करते रहते हैं over the whole game. And
राइट।
and also I see like in this kind of game the UI is very much minimalistic. So यहाँ पे UI के
यस।
नाम पे I think like there is on in the bottom side, middle side, वहाँ पे left side में और right side में और बीच में बस health रखा है, and like they have
या
kept everything like everything they have not
हाँ।
like they are not
हम्म।
showing anything else instead of that, and वो भी बहुत छोटा
राइट।
करके उन्होंने दिखाया so that the world feels bigger. And
या
इसलिए कैरेक्टर को भी कैमरा को भी काफी फार रखा है so that the world feels a lot bigger because it's a big forest that the player is exploring.
also to give the player more space to like play around
Hmm.
in the levels.
Yes. The animation, I think it's fantastic in the game. The idle animation, the jumping animation, and especially the visual effects. The trails that when he jumps, the trails follows along, and then
Right.
the interaction with the objects in the game. So हर जगह में they have added a lot of VFX, lot of and like ये game बहुत colorful है. Like again I would say, and they have added a lot of colors in the game. Each level represents something else. And ये में जैसे ये level में like they have added too much like gothic vibe, and the previous ones
Right.
have very much greenery. And again I would
Yeah.
like to say about the foreground, they have added a lot of animation in the foreground, so it gives that 3D depth in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So Ori and the Blind Forest is like a fantastic visually appealing game. I think this game again has that evergreen vibe to it, no matter where when the people when someone would play it,
Yeah.
like maybe
No
this year.
matter
Yeah.
people play it after 10 years, 5 years, it's
Yeah.
just awesome, seriously.
Yeah, it has that really great aesthetics to it. So I think like
Mm-hmm.
now we can tell like how why aesthetics are very important, why art styles are very important in the game, because like this is not a realistic game, but they have taken a lot of elements, I think, from realism, right?
Right.
The textures and all, and I think because of that, like some games, like not all of the games, some games has that evergreen factor to it.
Right.
So I
Right. Right.
think let's move it to the next game. So the next game, I think if someone is born in 90s and I think played a lot of Mario and old 8-bit games, they're familiar. So this kind of games are called 8-bit pixel art games. So it can be 8-bit, it can be 16-bit or 32-bit, depends on the gameplay and art style of it. So the
Mm.
Messenger is one of the good art style that they have gone with the pixel art work. So like when we see the game, right, it looks like a very old game, like it has that uh games that we used to play in the cartridge or in the Nintendo games like long back, because
Right.
this is also like one of the art style that people follows in a lot of indie games, बिकॉज
Right.
पिक्सल आर्ट एक अलग ही स्टाइल होता है जो बहुत अच्छा दिखता है वो. इट हैज द रेट्रो फीलिंग लाइक हाउ कप हैड डिड विद दैट मिकी माउस और डिज्नी काइंड ऑफ
Right.
एनिमेशन, एंड दिस हैज दैट 90s का जो पिक्सल आर्ट का सीन चल रहा था उससे पहले जो पिक्सल आर्ट, तो पिक्सल आर्ट में बेसिकली दे रेस्ट्रिक्ट देमसेल्व्स विद लॉट ऑफ कलर्स and the color palettes that they use, they restrict themselves, and वो बहुत एक लाइक छोटा एक इमेज बनाते हैं जिसको वो लोग यूज करते हैं वो पूरा गेम के लिए. सो if you see the gameplay of the game, so you see like they has that very old retro style games, right? And जो यहाँ पे ज्यादातर टाइल बेस एनिमेशन टाइल बेस यूज करते हैं rather than like the whole sprites. So they
Mm-hmm.
use lot of
Mm-hmm.
tiles in the game environment को
Yeah.
डिजाइन करने के लिए.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
because of that, I think this kind of games also has a charm in it, because pixel art recently काफी ज़्यादा popular हो रहा है with the games like Shovel Knight or maybe Hyper Life Drifter. And Messenger
Right.
is one of the games that has really so I'll tell like a small fact about this game, because I have played this game. And so first,
Mm-hmm.
when you start the game is 8-bit, okay? So what happens when you play in the mid game and वहाँ पे वो game 16-bit हो जाता है. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Okay.
the game
Mm-hmm.
itself broke the fourth wall, and it knows that the game is in future, and then like future में 8-bit से वो 16-bit हो जाता है. So now the game is actually 16-bit. अगर हम
Mm-hmm.
थोड़ा पहले का गेम प्ले देखेंगे ये गेम का, if you can like yeah, if you can just go back, so see this is 8-bit. ओके, यू सी लाइक द ग्राफिक्स थोड़ा सा पुराना लग रहा है. और सो बिकॉज वो लोग ऐसा करते हैं कि स्टार्टिंग के जो गेम है वो 8-bit रहता है, एंड एज द गेम प्रोग्रेसेस वो 16-bit में चले जाते हैं. सो वो नैरेटिव में भी रहता है दैट द कैरेक्टर गोज इनटू अनदर फ्यूचर इन द फ्यूचर. सो दिस गेम हैज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग मैकेनिज्म. सो दे हैव यूज द मैकेनिज्म एंड द आर्ट स्टाइल. सो उन्होंने अपना आर्ट स्टाइल को भी
Right.
एक मैकेनिज्म बना दिया है दैट you can swap between the two worlds. So in the
Right.
later stage, in the later part, what happens is basically the game switches between 16 and 8-bit, and the player can do that switch. So in the level, if you see that there is no way you can switch to that 8-bit era, suppose the character is in 16-bit era, he can switch
Mm-hmm.
into the 8-bit era, and there he can see the way of
Mm-hmm.
the stage in the level. So like that, the player needs to switch between both the and in the worlds, both the 8-bit and 16-bit, and then cross the
Right.
stage.
एंड ऑल्सो जब से मतलब क्या कहते हैं पीबीआर पाइपलाइन और ये सब शुरू हुआ था, तो
Yeah.
जब से मतलब लोगों ने बहुत ज़्यादा हाई क्वालिटी जो है ग्राफिक्स के
Hmm.
गेम्स बनाना स्टार्ट कर दिया, तब तब मतलब पिक्सल आर्ट दोबारा से जो है रिबॉर्न हुआ.
Yes.
पहले तो हम खेलते ही थे मतलब उस पे
Hmm.
कार्ट्रिजेस में और उन सब
Hmm.
में, बट फिर से जो है पिक्सल आर्ट जो है पीसीज और क्या कहते हैं इन कंसोल्स पे आने लग गया धीरे धीरे करके. मतलब ये इतना पॉपुलर हो गया कि मतलब लोगों ने मोस्ट ऑफ जो इंडी स्टूडियोज है उसको उन्होंने पिक्सल आर्ट को अडेप्ट करना स्टार्ट कर दिया अपने क्या कहते हैं स्टार्टिंग वीडियो गेम्स के लिए, कि
Yes.
दे विल बी स्टार्टिंग विद द फर्स्ट गेम विद द पिक्सल आर्ट स्टाइल एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ. बिकॉज क्योंकि एक एक वही फैक्टर ये रहता है कि मतलब इट गिव्स नॉस्टैल्जिया, राइट?
Yes, nostalgic factor.
या,
And also like art style is also pretty cool. Like if you see the art style, like
राइट.
I think like ये जो feel है, ये जो characters हो गए या तो जो environment हो गया, I think like जो दूसरे style होंगे वो नहीं दे पाएंगे उतना वो feel. And because
हाँ हाँ,
पहले it was a limitation, but now it has become some of a art style that people love. Because like I have seen a lot of people who loves pixel art, like playing pixel art games. There are a lot of communities.
राइट.
Yeah, and I think one of the game that pioneered pixel art, I think in the modern recent years, is
राइट.
Stardew Valley.
हाँ हाँ, या
And
स्टारड्यू वैली.
yeah, it has a really good pixel art in it. So pixel art में I think the work ज़्यादा नहीं होता है वहाँ पे, because वहाँ पे details कम होते हैं, but they work with that little details that they have. तो I think
राइट.
like यहाँ पे अगर character को देखें, like there are a lot of details, right? So but अगर हम लोग zoom करके देखेंगे तो सब कुछ pixelated रहेगा. So the artist also has to understand what is the limitation when he's making a pixel art, because he has to also work on grids, क्योंकि pixel works on grids like 8 by 8 grid, 16 by 16 grid, 64 by 64 grid,
राइट.
ऐसे उनको काम करना पड़ता है. And they have to visually represent on something like if I remember correctly, in the game Mario, the artist had added the mustache, uh, you know, because he was unable to make the mouth, because इतना
या.
छोटा डिटेल में माउथ बनाना बहुत मुश्किल है. That's why he had added that mustache. So like that,
राइट. राइट.
yeah. So they use a lot of like big things that represent, like if the body is there and there is a like a shawl, not shawl, like something like a big bracelet that I'm wearing or something like that. तो उसको
राइट.
हाईलाइट
राइट.
करना पड़ता है बहुत कम डिटेल्स में. And
हाँ
that's the
हाँ,
challenge of the artist, that how they will show that bracelet, और जो स्क्रीन में अच्छे से दिखे भी लोगों को कि समझ में अच्छा वहाँ पे कुछ है.
करेक्ट.
So see the level how I think these games also has a very charming factor, I think, because of this pixel art in it. So you see these characters, right? These two skeletons. So
या.
ज़्यादा details they don't have, but they
या,
represent that they are
बट
skeletons.
ये इनफ डिटेल्स है कि मतलब
Hmm.
जो है प्लेयर्स को ये बता सके कि ओके इट्स अ स्केलेटन बॉडी, राइट? इन्होंने
Yes.
इनफ डिटेल्स डाल रखी है. और
Yes.
गेम प्ले वाइज मतलब काफी अच्छा, मतलब पिक्सल पिक्सल गेम्स में लोग
Hmm.
जो डेवलपर्स है वो कर देते हैं कि मतलब इट्स लाइक सो कूल. इट मतलब काफी ये बताना मुश्किल होता है कि मतलब ये पीसी के लिए है या फिर ये पुराना कोई गेम है जो पहले कार्ट्रिजेस के लिए आता था.
Yes, right. So they keep that aesthetic vibes because people like those kind of style, and because of that only like a lot of people that are new like to the gaming, they also can enjoy those kind of game, because these games has some visual effects and some features that पुराने games में नहीं होते थे. So
राइट.
they add this modern because now they do it because of the art style, so they don't have that limitation. So they incorporate all these functions and features in the game, but they keep the art style. So इसमें एक modern के साथ एक old vibe भी आता है साथ में. So
राइट.
see
राइट.
how
राइट.
he had skip this to 8
स्किप
bit,
दिया.
right? Yeah.
राइट.
So this mechanism, like how they have shifted the 16-bit to 8-bit era, so they have incorporated in the game itself rather than just showing it visually. So it's a pretty
यस.
good idea, and I think this makes this game a bit of evergreen factor to it, no matter when the player play. And the art
या.
style is amazing. Like the characters, like the character is a ninja, so like they didn't add too much detail in the character, but they have added enough details so that player can recognize that's a ninja.
I remember I used to play a game a lot. It was a pixel game.
Hmm.
वो बेसिकली कार्ट्रिजेस वाला जो कंसोल्स वगैरह वो रहते थे, वो
Hmm.
उसमें आता था. उसका नाम था आई गेस कुछ, एक तो डबल ड्रैगन था इफ यू हैव रिमेम्बर.
Hmm. Yeah, I
डबल
remember
ड्रैगन.
the yeah.
एंड ऑल्सो एक और गेम था जिसमें हैगर नाम से एक वो था,
Hmm.
कैरेक्टर होता था हैगर करके, राइट?
Yes, I remember the name. I think the name was Mighty Final Fight.
माइटी, हाँ माइटी. या दिस वाज द वन. या इट वाज लाइक सो कूल. दिस वाज हैगर.
Yeah. I remember this game. He used to give this pile driver. He's a wrestler. Yeah.
यस यस, राइट.
I remember this game. So this is the actual 8-bit art style that classic games used to
Yeah,
have.
right,
Yeah, they used to do that because unke paas limitations the, but now it's become art style. See, like how they have added the whole stage, right? Like ये पूरा लेवल में उन्होंने जो पीछे का जो बैकग्राउंड है सब कुछ इतने कम डिटेल में उन्होंने रिप्रेजेंट किया जो आर्टिस्ट ने. Like there's a swimming pool
right,
in a such a low detail they have added. So उन्होंने जो shapes है उस पे काफी काम किया कि अगर ये एक चीज है जिसमें मुझे मैं ज्यादा डिटेल नहीं ऐड करूँ, how am I gonna show the player that is the particular thing. So see, that's the
right.
pile driver that I was saying. I used to
Yeah,
take Hager only, yeah, because
yeah.
he used to wrestle. Yeah.
He's like so muscular and all that stuff. Uh, I have played a game called Marvel and Capcom, something like that, जिसमें
Okay.
मार्वल और केपकॉम का क्लैश
हाँ
उसमें दिखा रखा
हाँ.
था, राइट?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
उसमें मैंने बेसिकली पहली बार हैगर का जो कैरेक्टर है वो देखा था, एंड आई वाज लाइक डूड, दिस इज द कैरेक्टर आई यूज्ड टू टेक इन माइटी फाइनल फाइट, एंड आई वाज
Yeah.
pretty hyped up when I first
Yes,
saw
yes.
it in that game.
Yes,
Yeah,
Marvel versus Capcom was a pretty cool game. I think they
yeah,
added a lot of
yeah.
character. I think Dante was there, and
Right,
uh,
right, right.
yes, yes. I think the third version. I think you're referring to. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man. Like, so I think pixel art is one of another great art style that I think developers can offer and artists can learn to make cool pixel art. There are a lot of tutorials. Uh, Photoshop, I think, is mostly used for pixel art. There are
Yes,
some,
correct.
yeah, and I had done some pixel art when I was doing 2D art for games, and
That's great.
yeah, and there's one software specifically dedicated for pixel art, which is called A Sprite. I think it's on Steam. You
Yes,
can
yes,
buy it.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So A Sprite
Uh-huh.
सिर्फ पिक्सल आर्ट के लिए ही बनाया है वो, and उससे काफी अच्छा विजुअली लुक दे पाते हैं. And I think
Hmm.
like pixel art, it's gonna remain a art style. Like it has become a norm in a lot of games. So I think it's gonna stay.
Yes. And also I guess ये अब कभी भी वो extinct नहीं होने वाला. It will
Yes.
be here for like forever. I mean, seriously.
Yes. 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 Yes, right. And I think people gonna find new ways to enhance the visuals,
Right.
like some games that are coming right now. They have added both pixel art and like realistic visuals, lightings to enhance it further.
Yeah, right.
So moving on to the next game. So I think everyone is familiar with this game. I think Limbo जो game है वो सभी ने खेला होगा. नहीं होगा तो भी सुना तो होगा, because indie game में it is one of the most recognized game. And I think because one of the key factor of being recognized is the art style in the game. Also the visuals is very different than most of the games because
Right.
इसमें the game is fully monochromatic, and the storytelling of the game is fantastic. The levels are amazing, and something that has not been done before any of the 2D games. They have Playdead Studios that
Mm-hmm.
created this game, and
Mm-hmm.
the atmosphere, especially like how they have uh, added like so less colors. Like colors के नाम पे तो कुछ है ही नहीं इसमें. It is like full black and white and
Yeah.
gray, but the artist had managed to add so much information in such a little colors that I think that stands out from all of the games that we have currently shown till now.
Right. And because जो डेवलपर है आर्टिस्ट, उन्होंने सिर्फ ग्रे के शेड्स और मोस्टली ब्लैक और वाइट को यूज करके ये एक ऐसे वर्ल्ड मतलब लिम्बो में बना दिया है कि इट्स लाइक मतलब ये बाकी अलग स्टैंड आउट करता है बाकी अदर वीडियो गेम से, जिसमें हम देखते हैं ओरी एंड द ब्लाइंड फॉरेस्ट में या फिर हॉलो नाइट में या फिर कपहेड में जो जितना कलरफुल था, लिम्बो में बेसिकली वही सब जो है नलीफाई हो जाता है क्योंकि इसमें सिर्फ ब्लैक वाइट और ग्रे के ही शेड्स है, राइट?
Yes.
बट स्टिल जो है प्लेयर्स के बीच में ये काफी पॉपुलर है,
Yeah.
इंडी गेम्स में काफी पॉपुलर है. कभी भी हम इंडी गेम्स में नाम लेते हैं तो हम लिम्बो का नाम बिल्कुल लेते हैं कि
Yes.
इट्स रियली नाइस गेम एंड इट हैज जस्ट टू कलर्स, विद दीज टू कलर्स इट इज स्टैंडिंग आउट इन द क्राउड फुल ऑफ गेम्स.
Yes, yes. Even the level design of the game is amazing. So much physics they have added into the game, and they have
Right,
focused particularly on the levels and the storytelling in the game without adding any cutscenes in the game, without adding a single line of text into the game. And if you see, the game doesn't have any tutorials in it. So
right,
they made the levels as such way that player खुद ही figure out कर लेता है चलो मुझे ये करना है. And like this game is a lot hard, like trial and error. You the player will die a lot in the game. Like मैं जब खेला था I got frustrated in few levels, but again like once
right.
you clear that stage you have that, oh
Uh-huh.
yes I have done it, okay ये करना था मुझे, okay ये करना था. So that जो click होता है वो कोई भी game खेलने से, that factor is there in the game. And like if you see, the character has that something in his head right now, right? And
Right,
उन्होंने बहुत क्लियरली वो चीज को मतलब शो किया है with just black and white color. And I think that's a
right,
big
right,
challenge. And not a lot of games are able to have that, convey that, art style in their games. But Limbo, especially
right,
like the games from Playdead Studios, have done an amazing
right.
job.
Also, Limbo, basically, the game Limbo is basically plays with the psychology of the players a lot. I mean,
Hmm.
seriously, it seriously plays with the psychology of the players.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Too much atmospheric. जो उन्होंने sound भी है. They didn't add any music to the game. They have added like lot of ambient sound in it. But
Right.
कुछ भी वहाँ पे उन्होंने add नहीं किया. So I think the main thing that the developer focused on was, let's make a side-scrolling game where we
Yeah.
remove everything that doesn't work with the uh, you
Real
know
world.
yeah, that doesn't work with the atmosphere that we are trying to create. If अगर ये game
Right.
में if we had lot of funky music or uh, music डाल दे तो वो atmospheric feeling चला जाएगा. So this game.
Even yeah, even if we like add colors,
Hmm,
two, three colors maybe, it no, it not gonna look that good, which is
hmm.
right now, right?
Yes, yes,
जैसा अभी
yes,
ये मतलब अच्छा लग रहा है.
yes. अभी इसलिए वो मैं लाइक देखता हूँ कि ये गेम जब भी मैं खेलता हूँ तो लाइक आई गेट soaked into the game world, because
Hmm.
not lot of games is able to do that, but Limbo is something that soaks the player into the game world. And so creepy feel deta hai, like you're alone in the world, you're running for some lot of enemies and you don't have anyone with you. And
Yes.
like every time there's a fear of dying in the game. So
Something like a dream, like you are dreaming, right?
yeah, yeah, something like we are in a dream and we're trying to escape. So it's like a nightmare we're trying to escape each time.
Yeah,
And I think
correct.
the art style plays a lot into that atmospheric look that they are
Yeah.
trying to achieve, and they have
Mm-hmm.
achieved that very successfully.
Mm-hmm.
And the sequel of this game was, I think, Inside, which was a 2.5D game.
Mm-hmm.
And that game also has that same, and I think the lighting in the game is pretty fantastic, like in Limbo. If you
Right.
see, the they have
Inside was not, I guess, the sequel of the game, but the both the games have the same vibe, basically.
okay, yeah, yeah, I think it was a successor to Limbo. It was not
Yeah.
a sequel. Yeah, it was a successor. I think इसका कोई sequel हो ही नहीं सकता इस game का.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was a successor, but again like that also has that atmospheric look without any music or anything, and you keep
Right,
running
right,
from
right.
enemies. Yeah. So this is also one of the art style. I think the animation they've added in this game is skeletal, and the character में उन्होंने सिर्फ silhouette use किया उन्होंने, and they have just added the eyes into it and nothing else.
Right.
Yeah, so I think this wraps up the 2D game art style, and there are pretty other games also which can be explored. Greece is one of that, and there's one game I don't remember the name, but I think it was a uh, fast pace. Oh yeah, I remember the name now. I think the name was Super Meat Boy.
Super Meat Boy, yeah.
Yeah, so there are so many great 2D games with the amazing art style that uh, you know new artists, concept artists, or even like some game designers, or even like people who wants to play a lot of games can explore those games and understand why these games are very different, and why this the art style help the game to differentiate it with other games. So
Mhm.
that's something that I think a lot of artists, animators, and even like game designers should look forward and play and understand why these games are successful in terms of visuals and gameplay.
Right, right.
So moving on, let's move ahead to 3D games. Okay, so we had 2D games right now. So let's move ahead with 3D games and understand some different art styles in different 3D games. So the next game is a 3D game, and I think people are already familiar with you know the huge success that this game had brought into the game industry, and so many players are currently playing this game. It's none other than Minecraft. And Minecraft जो game है, the art style is very simple. Like it has that pixel look into it. So it is something that is very new, and but something that is very appealing to the eyes. So yeah, I'm like Akshat gonna say more about this game.
या सो बेसिकली जो माइनक्राफ्ट है वो बेसिकली वॉक्सल कैटेगरी में फॉल होता है. व्हाट इज
Yeah.
वॉक्सल बेसिकली? वॉक्सल बेसिकली आर्ट स्टाइल क्या है कि उसमें जो मॉडल्स और ये सब होते हैं वो जो है उसमें ज्यादातर क्यूब्स एंड ये रेक्टेंग क्या कहते हैं क्यूबॉइड्स ज्यादातर यूज होते हैं. जैसे कि अगर आप इफ आई या जैसे कि ये जो वॉल है पूरी की पूरी या फिर ये जो एसेट्स है, मोस्ट ऑफ द एसेट्स इवन दिस लिटिल वेपन दिस गाय हैज, ये भी बेसिकली बहुत छोटे छोटे क्यूब से मतलब बना हुआ है. राइट.
Hmm.
और जो इस पे टेक्सचर है बेसिकली वो थोड़ा सा पिक्सेलेटेड है, जो कि थोड़ा एक अर्ली गेम्स की थोड़ी सी वाइब देता है हमें साथ के साथ. सो
Right.
या माइनक्राफ्ट बेसिकली एक वॉक्सल आर्ट स्टाइल पे बेस्ड है. एंड इट्स लाइक जब से मतलब माइनक्राफ्ट जो है लोगों ने खेला है, पीपल आर गोइंग क्रेजी विद द माइनक्राफ्ट एंड स्टफ. बिकॉज इसमें क्या रहता है कि you have to like you can do anything, I guess. You can even make your own game in the Minecraft world. I've seen so many streamers and I've seen so many guys who are making mods and remakes of games like Outlast and Resident Evil
Hmm.
in the Minecraft world. So yeah,
Right.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yes. So basically, it's like a universe, virtual universe, where player can create their own games, or they can explore the world, create their own places, and
Right.
even they can make game mechanics in it and create, different kind of fan base world that they have created. And it's pretty cool, like, because this game has given people to use their own imagination, and
Right.
the world that they can explore. So it's not like a shooting game, or like an action game. That So it's a very relaxing game where people can sit down and use their own imagination, because यहाँ पे सारे players को tools दे देते हैं. So this is like a uh, playmakers thing, like where people can sit down, use their imagination, and that's the reason I think this game is very success, and it has like endless possibilities of creation in the game, and the developers are still putting new elements in the game, so that more
Right.
features can be implemented by the players. So यहाँ पे जो developers करते हैं, they give people tools to create, and they leave it to the creators and all the players to use their own imagination and and that's the
Right.
one of the key success factor in the game.
Even they can hang out with their friends in the
Hmm.
Minecraft world. They can go to their what do you call it, in their own world and play with them. They can buy these little things
Hmm.
and also to sell these things in the
Yes.
Minecraft world.
So it has this economy based inventory system, so they can buy, sell,
Right.
they can mine, basically the name comes from that only. They can mine materials, different materials like, stone, wood, and they can
Right.
use those materials to create their objects. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, like, and because of the art style, like this game has a very charming factor to it, because
Right.
voxel art is something that not a lot of games have been used. But I think because of voxel art, the resource for the game कम चाहिए होता है उसमें to run on
Right.
systems like, even like mobile phones, or just like
Right.
imagine being a very realistic game with the sim mechanics. तो हर कोई तो नहीं चला पाएगा ये गेम को, and
Right.
voxel के वजह से they have kept that charming factor into it, and add a little bit of realism, because the lighting and all looks pretty cool in the game. And it has also had the day and night cycle, I think, inside of the game. And uh, like लाइटिंग जो होता है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है 3D गेम्स में, बिकॉज लाइटिंग से पूरा गेम का जो मटेरियल होता है एंड जो टेक्सचर्स होता है उसको समझ में आता है प्रॉपर्ली, एंड पीपल कैन एक्चुअली अंडरस्टैंड, ओके दिस इज समथिंग, दिस लुक्स लाइक अ वुड, दिस लुक्स लाइक अ ग्रास, और दिस लुक्स लाइक लैंड काइंड, सॉइल काइंड ऑफ थिंग. But if the lighting is not proper, then this materials won't have that differentiator factors. So again, like voxel art, right, Akshat, is very much in trend right now. I think a lot of metaverse games are following this art style. So moving on to the next game, we have a very popular game that is right now one of the most trending game, whether it is on iOS or on PC, on console. It's a free to play game, and it is called Genshin Impact. So बहुत लोगों ने ये गेम खेला होगा, और बहुत लोगों को ये गेम पसंद भी आया होगा, और बहुत लोग इसको स्ट्रीम भी कर रहे हैं. So one of the key factor that this game differentiates with like with other games is because of the art style. It has that anime look into it, and the game has a thing called shell shade. So shell shaded क्या होता है, basically जो गेम के जो शेडर्स होते हैं, जो टेक्सचर्स होते हैं, उसमें वो लोग आउटलाइन दे देते हैं. So it gives that illustration vibe look to that game. And rather than going into the realism factor in this kind of styles, the developers or the artists goes more into the stylized cartoon look into the game. I won't say cartoon, but it is more like an anime look to the game.
Anime
So
look, yeah.
yeah.
If you have like ever watched animes like Attack of Titans and
Hmm.
Death Note, or maybe there is a popular anime cartoon movie, Spirited Away
Spirited Away.
yeah. So it's seriously most popular anime movie. So uska jo thoda sa art style hai, that resemble Genshin Impact resemble those art style in which are in the anime, like
Yeah.
Spirited Away and all that stuff.
Yes, yes. And I think because of that, this game is, very much different than most of the, I think, MMORPG, that category genre that falls into,
Right.
that this game falls into. And
Right.
उसके वजह से like people, and there are a lot of other factors also. I think the gameplay, because of the gameplay, the content that the game frequently provides, and all these things that the game is giving to the players. But one of the key factors this game really shines is because of the art style the game is giving. And because of that, I think ये game एक evergreen game है. Like कभी भी कोई भी कब खेलेगा, so they won't go for a realism, because this game like is not going towards the realism factor. It has that art style that people can relate to, because it's like an anime. So anime never gets old. Like if I'm watching an anime that came in 2002 or maybe 2003,
Yeah.
and I'm
Right.
watching an anime that is in 2010, so itana differentiate factor nahi hoga. Maybe they'll have some 3D
Right.
backgrounds in the anime, some in fight sequence, but most of the style will remain same. So because of that,
Right.
this game is also something that and I think a lot of things in this game are hand painted textures
Yeah,
rather than
most of
PBR.
the actually everything in this game is hand painted. एंड अगर किसी को मतलब एनिमे देखना बहुत ज्यादा पसंद है, सो वो डेफिनेटली बेसिक जो है इस गेम को जरूर खेलेगा, एंड वो डेफिनेटली इसको ट्राई आउट जरूर करेगा. तो इस पे जो मोस्ट ऑफ द टेक्सचर्स आप देखते हो, जैसे कैरेक्टर्स हो गया या फिर बैकग्राउंड्स हो गए या फिर प्रॉप्स हो गए, वो सब
Yeah.
जो है हैंड पेंटेड है. वो बहुत अच्छे से हैंड पेंटेड कर रखा है, जो कि इस गेम को स्टैंड आउट कराता है बाकी जो है वीडियो गेम से.
Yes. and the VFX and all these things also, it's pretty bright game. Like यहाँ पे I don't
Right.
see a lot of the color, that palette that the artists have
Correct.
chose, and even the characters has that lot of colorful cloth and all these ornaments that they are wearing, and the world
Right.
pretty much is very much colorful. So एक
Right.
बहुत अच्छा एक anime fantasy world का एक look देता है, instead of going into that realistic or maybe pseudo realistic look for the game.
Right.
And the
Right.
UI is also very minimalist, like बहुत ज़्यादा UI नहीं है इस game में, बहुत कम UI
Right.
उन्होंने रखा है, lot of icons they are using, and बेसिकली जो एम्फेसिस है वो वर्ल्ड के ऊपर है और प्लेयर के ऊपर है कि क्या एक्शन वो प्लेयर अभी कर रहे हैं.
And also, like, people can play that with their friends because it's an online game. You cannot play this game offline. It's an online game, और उसका यही बेसिकली एक अच्छा सा फैक्टर होता है कि आप एक एनिमे वर्ल्ड में अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ जो है इसमें हैंग आउट कर सकते हो, खेल सकते हो, स्टोरी में खेल सकते हो और इंडिविजुअल खेल सकते हो. सो इट्स रियली अ गुड फैक्टर ऑफ दिस गेम.
Yes, and I feel like they went it into like a flat kind of colors, like बहुत ज्यादा शेडिंग नहीं है कैरेक्टर्स में, फ्लैट उन्होंने कलर्स यूज किया, लाइक फ्लैट कलर्स. व्हेन आई एम सेइंग लाइक शेल शेडेड में क्या होता है कि जो जो ऑब्जेक्ट्स होते हैं वहाँ पे दे डोंट यूज लॉट ऑफ like different colors, like if there is blue, then blue का सिर्फ एक या दो शेड्स ही उन लोग यूज करते हैं, so that
Right.
that it has that kind of ink kind of look into it, जो
Right.
कॉमिक लुक्स होते हैं, जो मांगा
Right.
के जो लुक होते हैं या तो एनिमे के जो लुक होते हैं. So
Correct.
if
Correct.
we look, I think, closely into the characters or the world, we can see like they has that outline, small छोटे छोटे outlines है characters के borders में. उससे उसको एक 2D लुक जो है वो भी दे देता है, जिससे वो
Right.
शार्प लुक वो दे देता है, जो एक इंक या पेन से जो लुक आता है, जो ड्राइंग से आता है.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay, so Genshin Impact is an amazing game, and if someone is really fond of anime and watch a lot of animes and want to play a game that has really good art style and has a visually very stylish game, so Genshin Impact is one of that game. So moving on to the next game, we have uh, so the next game is a low poly game. So low poly जो design होता है, basically they take it because it's an art style similar to how pixel art works. For 2D game, low poly is something that is for 3D games. So like people, like lot of game has low poly. So this is like when we used to play games from 2002, 3, 4. So वहाँ पे वो games low poly रहते थे because the hardware was not capable of high polygons. But these
Mhm.
games are low poly because the aesthetic visuals they have chose to keep it low poly. So in the low
Right.
poly also, the visuals looks very good, if and it has a lot of like less polygon counts. That's the reason it is called low poly. And वहाँ पे जो artist है, they have added a lot of interesting visual elements so that squares और blocks में जो होता है वो character को define कर सकते हैं, वो गेम के जो assets होते हैं उसको properly interesting बना सकते हैं, whether it is the
Correct.
textures, whether
Mm-hmm.
by textures or whether by like putting like subtle details into the character.
या
So yeah.
करेक्ट. राइट. राइट. और बेसिकली लो पोली यूज करने का ये भी फैक्टर रहता है कि मतलब ऑप्टिमाइजेशन जो एक टेक्निक रहती है कि हमें जैसे कि दिस गेम वाज फॉर एंड्रॉइड आल्सो, राइट?
Yes, it is also for Android and iOS.
या सो इट ऑल्सो द फैक्टर कि उन्होंने उनको ऑप्टिमाइजेशन जो है वो बरकरार रखनी थी, तो इस वजह से जो है लो पोली यूज किया. और लो पोली में मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल थॉट कि लो पोली में मतलब एस्थेटिक वाइब्स नहीं आती, बट वी कैन सी इन द लारा क्रॉफ्ट गो गेम दैट उसकी जो एस्थेटिक है पूरी की पूरी इस गेम की, इवन इफ इट्स लो पोली एंड नॉट दैट हाईली डिटेल्ड टेक्सचर्स, ये बहुत ही ज्यादा अच्छा एक जो है एस्थेटिक्स और वाइब दे रहा है. ठीक है, ठीक है.
Yeah.
गेम प्ले भी इट्स लाइक गेम प्ले इज कूल आल्सो. गेम प्ले भी काफी अच्छा है इसका. बट मोस्ट ऑफ द लोगों को ऐसा एक थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूज वो रहता
Misconceptions.
है,
Yeah.
मिसकंसेप्शन रहता है कि लो पोली में हम उतना डिटेल नहीं दे सकते, बट यू कैन सी ओवर हियर दैट इट्स इट्स लुक्स सो ब्यूटीफुल.
Yes. I think the artist is responsible for adding details, subtle details into
Right.
all the elements, whether by textures or, mostly by textures, because वो लोग polygon से तो ज़्यादा कुछ कर नहीं सकते. So I think by textures they have added details. If you look at the spider looks very distinctive because it has that red dots, black dots and red color, and it looks very dangerous. So
Yeah.
I think the polygon count for Lara also is very low comparatively
Right.
to other games that 3D games that we see, like the previous game that we talked about, Genshin Impact. वहाँ पे बहुत high polygon था, but यहाँ पे if you see like the characters has a very low polygons. But again, like how you had mentioned that इससे it is not a limitation, but something that a visually stylized look that the artist have gone to create the game assets and the game world. And I think this also gives a very distinctive look for any 3D games right now. And people, creating games, different games using this art style. And uh, there are a lot of games that uses low poly art style. I think Super Hot is another game that uses low
Right.
poly
Right.
and
Right.
it looks pretty good.
एंड ऑल्सो अब जितने भी मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ द हाइपर कैजुअल गेम्स जो है वो लो पोली
Yes.
को ही टारगेट करते हैं, लो पोली आर्ट स्टाइल को ही यूज करते हैं, बिकॉज ऑफ द ऑप्टिमाइजेशन ऑल्सो, एंड बिकॉज
Mm.
वो हाइपर कैजुअल जोनरा में फिट बैठता है बेसिकली. सो
Yes.
या, सो ये अच्छा काफी रहता है इसमें.
Yes. And like if I see
people
like
people
the
are people are
yeah.
like now adapting the low poly art style, which is
Yes,
good,
yes,
which is good.
which is really cool, I think.
Yeah.
And and like this colors, right, this is a pretty flat colors, like यहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा detailing नहीं है, even in textures
Right.
also.
Right. Right.
Like they can add a lot of grass kind of textures, but they have choose not to, because colors को काफी flat रखा है, like how we see vector art in 2D, this is like vector art in 3D. So yes.
Right. Right.
So moving on to the next game, we have. So the next game that we have is none other than Uncharted. So let's talk about realistic games and PBR based lighting, right?
Yeah.
PBS, yeah. So I think for this, Akshat is well known to this kind of art style.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, Rahul. So, earlier, before PBR, we used to play these kind of games. Like most of the games में क्या रहता था कि जो textures रहते थे वो थोड़े से फोटो टेक्सचर रहते थे, जैसे कि किसी 3D मॉडल पे किसी फोटो को जो है सुपर इम्पोज कर दिया हो. बट जब से पीबीआर पाइपलाइन जब से स्टार्ट हुआ है, व्हाट इज पीबीआर? इट्स फिजिकली बेस्ड रेंडरिंग और फिजिकली बेस्ड शेडिंग, पीबीआर और पीबीएस. इसमें क्या रहता है कि बेसिकली पीबीआर मटेरियल्स और ऑब्जेक्ट्स जो है डील्स विद व्हेन लाइटिंग हिट्स देम, इट एक्ट्स लाइक इट्स अ रियल ऑब्जेक्ट, राइट? जैसे
Okay.
कि मैं बता दूं, जैसे मार्बल होता है, राइट?
Yeah.
रियल लाइफ में मार्बल को अगर हम लाइट लिट अप करेंगे, लाइट उस पर अगर मारते हैं तो व्हाट इट डू? इट शाइन्स, राइट?
Yeah.
इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स लाइट्स. ओके.
Yes.
और उस पर हमें क्या कहते हैं, थोड़ा शाइनीनेस भी देखने को मिलता है, और जो है हम उस पर अपना फेस वगैरह भी देख सकते हैं मार्बल में, राइट? सो वैसा ही जो है एक सिमुलेशन हम कह सकते हैं वीडियो गेम्स में लाया गया थ्रू पीबीआर पाइपलाइन, जो कि एक बहुत बड़ी कह सकते हैं हम उपलब्धि कह लो उसको, क्योंकि एक बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि थी कि पीबीआर पाइपलाइन के थ्रू अब हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा डिटेल्स जो है एनवायरमेंट्स में हो या प्रॉप्स में हो या फिर कैरेक्टर्स में हो जो है डाल सकते थे. और वो देखने में काफी एस्थेटिक वाइब, एस्थेटिकली काफी अच्छा लगता था. So, जब से पीबीआर पाइपलाइन स्टार्ट हुई है.
Right. So basically, it brings that realism to all the textures and materials that the games has, right? And
Right.
because of that, I think the games that are currently, the big AAA games and even some indie games also, they are able to achieve a lot of realism in their games.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
that I think is a very good achievement, for games. And
Right.
because of that, we have been seeing a lot of realistic looking games जो पहले possible नहीं था, no matter how
Right.
how hard they had tried using different
Right.
techniques. एंड आई थिंक बेसिकली पीवीआर बेस्ड पाइपलाइन के वजह से गेम्स लाइक अनचार्टेड हो गया, लास्ट ऑफ अस हो गया, इवन कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी गेम्स हो गए, जो भी रियलिस्टिक गेम्स आते हैं वो
right,
उसके वजह से वो अचीव कर पाते हैं वो रियलिज्म.
right. And if you see in this cutscene, ऐसा लगेगा नहीं कि मतलब like it's a game. It's like, I mean, seriously, ऐसा लग रहा है कि कोई मूवी है, right? It's
Yes.
so lifelike.
Yes. Yes, right. And I think like these artists work really hard to work on very minute details. One of
Right,
that detail is surface scattering. So ये
right,
basically, yeah, so basically यहाँ पे क्या होता है, एक जो स्किन के लिए वो स्पेशली ज्यादा यूज होता है, बिकॉज क्रिएटिंग
right,
रियलिस्टिक स्किन इज वेरी हार्ड. लाइक स्टिल पीपल
right,
आर, गेम कंपनीज आर, बिग गेम कंपनीज आर trying to figure out कि कैसे realistic, क्योंकि it is something that is very transparent. If we put a light in front of like a torch light डाल के अगर उंगली को आगे रखे तो it becomes very red, right?
right,
So
right.
it's
Correct.
not that very much like an opaque thing, but it has that opacity, like light passes through the skins. And
Right,
because of that reason उसको एक मतलब एक वर्चुअल डिजिटली उसको प्रोड्यूस करना, उसको एग्जैक्ट उसे दिखाना बहुत ही मुश्किल है, स्पेशली गेम्स में जहाँ पे रियल टाइम रेंडरिंग होता है. मूवीज में
right,
फिर भी
right,
चल जाता है, बिकॉज वहाँ पे लाइक रेंडरिंग रियल टाइम नहीं होता है. लाइक पीपल लाइक कीप ऑन रेंडर फॉर लाइक एक फ्रेम के लिए भी टेक्स लाइक 10 to 20 days, इट्स फाइन. बट फॉर मूवीज, फॉर
correct.
गेम्स, या लाइक पर सेकंड, पर मिली सेकंड मैटर करता है, पर फ्रेम एक सेकंड में होना चाहिए. लोगों को 30 FPS में अभी गेम खेलना पसंद नहीं आता है. एवरीवन वांट्स टू प्ले गेम्स इन 60 frames. सो
Yes, yes, right,
so because of that, I think a lot of new technologies are also emerging, like ray tracing के वजह से अभी lighting काफी improve हो गया है. Real time lighting होता है instead of
right.
baked lighting.
Lighting and fog वगैरह अगर अब एनवायरनमेंट में डाला डाला है, या फिर जो पार्टिकल सिस्टम है
Hmm.
और ये सब जो चीजें शेडिंग वगैरह वो सब तो काफी इम्प्रूव हो गया है जब से रेट रेस जो है रेट रेस इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ है.
Yes, and all thanks to Nvidia, they have introduced.
Yes,
Yeah,
right, correct,
and
correct.
it's still a very much hardware dependent
Right,
effect. I mean, not effect, like hardware dependent feature, because even like full RTX, maybe it takes a huge like the most expensive graphics cards, like
right,
RTX
right,
2070, or maybe like 3070 or 3080, to fully
right,
utilize the RTX and give it a acceptable frame rate in the game.
right. एंड ऑल्सो अब जब से जैसे जैसे टेक्नोलॉजी अब एडवांस होती जा रही है, हमारे गेम्स भी जो है एडवांस होते जा रहे हैं.
Yeah.
पहले क्या होता था कि हम रेफरेंस के थ्रू या फिर कॉन्सेप्ट के थ्रू जो है मॉडल को बनाते थे, तब पीबीआर पाइपलाइन यूज करके वी टेक्सचर्ड इट. अब जो
Hmm.
है फोटोग्रामेट्री भी अब बहुत से स्टूडियोज यूज करने लग गए. व्हाट इज फोटोग्रामेट्री बेसिकली, मैं इसमें थोड़ा सा बताना चाहूंगा. इसमें
Okay.
फोटोग्रामेट्री बेसिकली एक प्रोसेस है जिसमें एक रियल ऑब्जेक्ट को स्कैन किया जाता है विद
Hmm.
विद विद कैमरा सराउंडिंग इट. ओके, यू
Okay.
गेटिंग माय पॉइंट. तो
Yeah.
फिर ताकि उसका एक 3D मैश क्रिएट किया जाए, और
Hmm.
ये सब जो है एक थोड़ा सा मतलब ऐसी लाइटिंग में होता है जिसमें वो ऑब्जेक्ट जो है ऐसा ना लगे कि एक तरफ शेडो आ रही है या फिर एक तरफ लाइटिंग आ रही है.
Okay.
राइट.
Okay.
तो
So
उसको
fully
पूरा
lit
स्कैन या
object.
फुल्ली लिट पूरा एक स्कैन किया जाता है उस ऑब्जेक्ट का, देन उसको ऑप्टिमाइज किया जाता है बाय रीटोपोलाइजेशन. करेक्ट.
Right.
सो ये मेथड जो है अब मोस्ट ऑफ द बिग ट्रिपल स्टूडियोज uses this method of photogrammetry.
Photogrammetry. Pretty cool
Yeah,
technique that they are using to bring, I think, more realism to the game world
correct,
characters.
correct,
And I think like in the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be a lot of new, inventions, or maybe new features that will come along to make the games more realistic. And अभी PS5 में जो games आ रहे हैं वो काफी realistic होते हैं. And because
right,
like realism is something that people are always fond of. Like if I like art style is good. Like this game is also having a really good art style, but people can relate more when the game is very realistic. But again, like वो achieve करने के लिए वो company को they have to work a ton. Like they need a very big team for that, like creating a lot
right,
of
right,
assets working on many minute details.
They also have to give more time to like a single asset. If a person is making a rock,
Yeah.
it is a rock, but it should be like realistic, it should be like lifelike. Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, he has to work on a lot of day and night, and maybe hours and days to make it look like it's really a realistic rock.
Yeah, and that just a small rock, I think that people gonna ignore it.
Right.
But the other thing is that वो है environment में, that's the reason, like
Right.
छोटे छोटे चीज ही लास्ट में वो पूरा realistic look लाता है गेम में.
Correct,
So
correct.
the grass, the foliage, the rocks, the soil, even like they have added soil, like जो Nathan Drake का जो पाँव होता है, it gets all muddy when he walks
Right,
into
right,
the
right.
mud. And these are the small details that the developers had focused on, and it's not easy to create all these details. Like it takes a lot of iterations, a lot of techniques to create something like this in a video game, because ये सब real time हो रहा है, and we don't have a predefined, कि नेथन ड्रेक हमेशा यही रूट से जाएगा. Player can move anywhere, so they has to
Correct.
calculate everything and create all the details, minute details, and all
Right.
these interactive elements in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think realism has that really awesome factor, but again, like realism is something that gets pretty old pretty soon. Like if we see some game that has came in 2012 and we have told, oh my god, like that game is really realistic, and we see it now and we see, okay, like abhi
Yeah.
to nahi lag realistic.
Right, right, right.
So
And
realistic.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, also अब जो है जब जितना गेम रियलिस्टिक बनता जाता है, हार्डवेयर की डिपेंडेंसी भी उतनी ही बढ़ती जाती है, उतना ही अच्छे
Yes.
अब पीसीज और लैपटॉप्स मार्केट में उतरते हैं, ताकि मतलब और स्पेशली उन गेम्स के लिए आई गेस, राइट? कि मुझे
Yeah.
याद है कि जब से मार्वल्स का स्पाइडरमैन निकला था, तब उन्होंने PS4 PS5 निकाला था, आई गेस, राइट?
Yeah, I think
PS4.
the next Miles Morales. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
And
yeah.
when Halo Infinite came, they have made a separate this thing, Xbox's Project Scarlet,
Yeah.
to launch Halo Infinite.
Yes, they have done that. And yeah, like right, that's actually very accurate, because hardware बहुत dependency होता है if the game move, because this is a PS4 game, and this game won't run in a PS3 console, right?
Right.
And something that is focused only on PS5, and that won't run on
Mhm.
PS4. So because of that only, like these games are very hardware dependent, and PC में नया graphics cards इसके लिए आते रहते हैं, and that's what the video game industry works like this only. Like they big companies work on big innovations and features that gives more you know more realistic look, or maybe new features. And like right now, if I see, like the SSD works really great in new consoles, like all these Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they are focusing on games that are optimized on SSD, because loading speed is one of the big factors that they are focused on. Key game
Correct.
you start hona chahiye, or you aa jana chahiye, instead of waiting for like
Right, right,
1 or 2
right.
minutes in the loading screen. So that is something that, so इसके साथ इसीलिए नया innovations जो होते हैं games के लिए वजह से आते रहते हैं नया innovations. And because of that we see huge titles like Uncharted, Last of Us, Call of Duty हो गया, then Spider-Man हो गया, especially those
Yeah.
PlayStation exclusives.
And most favorite of people, Grand Theft Auto, GTA 5.
GTA 5, yeah, I think GTA 5 is like it's something that is never gonna end, because like it's keep on coming. And
Yes.
like even like now I've heard like there's this new version that is coming on PS5. I don't know how good it will look. I think that old engine is like it's completely used off. Like अभी कुछ कर नहीं सकते वो engine को लेके. They cannot add something new in the game. I think we have to wait for
Right.
GTA 6 or something, the next project that Rockstar gonna do after Red Dead Redemption
Uh-huh.
2.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, let's move on to the next game, and the final game that we have. So the next game जो बहुत एक stylish game है, which is called The Life is Strange. it's a pretty cool game. It's a story-based game, episodic game. If no one has played, if the viewers haven't played, we'd recommend play this game. It's like a TV series that you're playing, and it has a really cool rewind feature that the character Max has. I won't spoil too much of the story in the game. It is most of the choices that the player makes that have consequences in the game, similar to how story-based games are. And it has a very distinctive art style in the game, and Akshat will explain more about it.
So basically, what art style Life is Strange uses, if you have ever seen a concept art, अगर आपने कोई भी एक concept art picture देखा होगा, तो फिर आपने देखा होगा कि concept art क्या artist क्या करता है कि most of the time वो एक image बनाता है, right?
Hmm.
जिसमें वो एक आइडिया को जनरेट करता है. जैसे कि अगर
Yeah.
मैं दिखाऊं यहाँ पर, जैसे कि ये एक कॉन्सेप्ट है किसी एक
Yeah.
वुडन मैंशन का. तो
Yeah.
आर्टिस्ट ने इसमें बेसिकली क्या किया है कि इसमें जो है एक आइडिया जनरेट करा है कि ऐसा जो है ये वुडन मैंशन
Hmm.
लगेगा जाकि ताकि 3D आर्टिस्ट इसको यूज करके एक 3D मॉडल बनाए, राइट?
Yes.
इसमें हम
Yes.
देखेंगे कि बहुत से ब्रश स्ट्रोक्स भी हैं और ऐसी ये लाइंस वगैरह भी हैं. सो लाइफ इज स्ट्रेंज जो है बेसिकली वही चीज रिसेंबल करता है. इसमें जो क्या कहते हैं, बहुत बहुत से मॉडल्स है, इवन द कैरेक्टर्स ऐसा लगता है कि वो डायरेक्टली उनके ऊपर पेंट ओवर किया हुआ है. देयर आर नो
Yes.
फोटो बैशिंग इन द गेम, और ऐसा नहीं है जैसे कि हमने पहले
Hmm.
से कोई टेक्सचर बना लिया और फिर उसके ऊपर सुपर इम्पोज या फिर वैसा कुछ कर
Right.
दिया. इट फील्स लाइक कि मतलब कोई हम वी आर डायरेक्टली लुकिंग एट ए कॉन्सेप्ट आर्ट. क्योंकि
Yes.
हम देखेंगे कि बहुत से एसेट्स पे, इवन कैरेक्टर्स पे वो ब्रश का स्ट्रोक हमें दिखता है उस पे,
Hmm.
राइट? तो
Hmm.
ऐसा लगता है कि हम कोई एनिमेटेड कॉन्सेप्ट आर्ट देख रहे हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड एनिमेटेड कॉन्सेप्ट आर्ट. एंड लाइफ इज स्ट्रेंज इज स्टैंड्स क्लियरली द बेस्ट गेम आई गेस आई हैव एवर प्लेड. मैं पहले वैसे जो चॉइस बेस्ड गेम्स नहीं खेलता था, but when
Yeah.
I first see Life is Strange, I just fall in love with this game. And I was like, I seriously has to try this game once for that.
Yes, 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 right. And the story is also a big part in the game. I completed the game long back when it got released, and the music, the art style, and everything
Right,
has that
right.
series kind of looked at teenager, series that
Yeah,
we watch. It has that like a thriller and like a romance kind of look, vibe into it.
correct.
And I think the art style plays a lot in that whole ambience that they are giving in the game. And in the future
Right.
games they have tend more towards the realistic look, but the first game was something that I think because of this also the hardware limitation for that time, and even like the limitation of the studio was also one of the reason that why they went to the style. But again, like the style is really cool for games like episodic games.
Yes,
And
right.
yeah, the concept, it looks like a concept art. Definitely it looks like a concept art that is being played in a screen.
Yeah,
And if
if
we
you
look
see,
at
yeah,
all the,
if you, yeah,
yeah,
what I was saying, if you see this door asset over here, can you see these lines of
yes,
strokes, brush strokes,
yes,
right?
yes,
ये
yes,
बेसिकली हमें कॉन्सर्ट हॉल में बहुत देखने को मिलता है, करेक्ट?
yeah,
तो
yeah, yeah.
बेसिकली क्या है ना कि इवन टेक्सचर जो है इसका इतना परफेक्ट नहीं है,
Mm.
बट इट इज गिविंग अस सच अ वाइब कि people wants to play it, something like that.
Yes, 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 it has that what do you call it, like an illustration book kind of feeling
Right.
that we
Well,
see.
a kind of semi-realistic approach.
Yes, semi-realistic approach, yes, right. And this junkyard is a very good examples, like all the rusted metal that is in the car. Like we can understand like that is something that is being rusted, but it's not realistic. So it's like a pseudo realistic art style that they had gone through, because it's not a fantasy world that they have created. It is something that is related, that is a real world theme that they have gone for. So they have to keep all the assets, and I think all the everything that they have put in the game, that to keep it realistic, that resembles a real world. So using this art style, I think had decrease their workload. So I think because of this reason, उनका जो studio का उनका काम कम हो गया, and also they are able to keep that look and feel of a real world, right? So yeah,
Right, right.
so I think
It
this is
almost, yeah, it almost like feels as if you're not playing a video game, but you're watching a TV series.
yes, yes, right, and also the lighting is pretty amazing in the game.
Right, right.
Till now we have seen so many art style, whether it is on 2D or whether it is on 3D, and every game has their own art style and every game has their own aesthetic look that developers and the artist had chose to use. And because of the artistic look, they had been able to differentiate the game from other games, and has every game has a unique feel to it, whether it is the look, the
Right.
sound, the gameplay, and the art style, especially for any kind of game, is a very
And
important.
all and also this art style was not used until is in Life is Strange.
Yes, I have seen very few game. I mean, like in fantasy games, they use this kind of style, but in real world games, they are not using this kind of style. So,
Right, right, right.
yes, so this was, I think, one of the first game that won with that art style, and I think art style जो होता है वो एक गेम का सोल होता है, like because most,
Yeah,
like it's a video game, so people gonna watch it for a long period of time, and the
right, right.
visual should be very interesting to keep the player hooked, whether it is on 2D or 3D game. So
Correct, correct.
if the limitation is there, if the team is small, they don't have that much of manpower, they don't have that much of big team size, or maybe they don't have that much of affordability to make a huge realistic game like Uncharted or maybe all these AAA games, they can offer this kind of style and make their games very unique. And there are still a lot of,
Right,
I think, art style that are still being discovered, and people are still experimenting with combining different art style with that and this, and then they're creating a new art
right.
style of their own.
Yeah, right, right.
So we have seen a lot of 2D games, we have seen a lot of 3D games, and I think this is the end of the podcast. Akshat,
Yeah,
thank you for having with us, and it was a
yeah. Thank
really
you.
great time with you.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. Thank you.
And I hope the game that Black March is currently developing will be a great success, and I'll be keeping that game in my wish list, and play the game when the game will get ready, and when
Yeah,
the game will
thank.
get released.
Yeah,
And yeah, you have anything else to say to the viewers in there?
yeah. Nothing much, but apart from the thing that you must wishlist our game. It's on Steam. Rahul will be giving the link in the description
Yeah,
along with my Instagram ID, so you can follow me over there also and see what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, amazing. So thank you for the time, Akshat. It was really nice to understand all this art style. We discussed all the art style and the type of games that are very unique. And I
Yeah,
think one message that I would like to give to all our viewers who are interested in gaming is that play a lot of games, play different kind of games. Don't stick with one video game for a long
right,
time. Play that games that are on 2D, that is on 3D, different genres of games. Understand what make the game unique, whether it is the art style, the gameplay, or maybe the story of the game. And I think that will help you in the long term to create a good visual library and understand how different game studios incorporate different art style for the games and make the games unique. So
yeah,
yeah,
correct.
that's the end of the podcast. It was, I hope our viewers had really great time understanding different art styles and understanding how games work. Till then, we'll meet next time. Till then, gamify your world. Bye, guys.